And welcome to another edition of On Point for today, Friday, the 10th day of October 2025. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and of course, I'm here every Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And indeed, it is always my pleasure to come here because how else can you hear me, or how else can I bring some issues to you that are important to the island of Nevis, other than to come here to Von Radio? And of course, we are being beamed all over the Caribbean and throughout the world through Von Radio, online. Those of us here in the Federation and regionally will catch Von Radio at 8:60 a.m. and 93.7 FM. And indeed, let me start this afternoon by doing what I normally do, by greeting all of our listeners here on the island of Nevis, in all 5 parishes, especially those up there in the St. James area, which is a parish that I truly love and embrace. And it's the only parish I've lived in all my life. Never been anywhere else other than to live in the United States for a little bit. But then once I came back to Nevis, I've been in St. James and living among the people there. Of course, I want to also greet the folks down there in St. Kitts who are listening to Von Radio at this time, whether on the AM band, FM band, or on the different social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook and so forth. And then we go further afield, and let me say hello and good afternoon to the folks down in Statia, Sabre, St. Bart's, French and Dutch St. Martin, of course, US and British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. And then I head back south and just, greet all the folks there in Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Lucia, yes, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, of course, and further south, Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Guyana. We have persons who are living among us from all those islands, and I say that we do a good job here in Nevis to take care of them as they take care of this island as well. And then let's go further north now and greet the folks there in South Florida and the whole of Florida, East Coast, West Coast, North and South, and then you go up the eastern seaboard all the way up to those smaller states of Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire and so forth. And of course, New York City. A lot of our nationals live in the state of New York, but more so New York City itself. And of course, we go across to the Midwest and central part of the United States and say it should be good morning or good day. Well, just about midday there. And of course, we go into the West, California, Oregon, Washington State. They are now, it's morning there, I should say. And I say good morning to all of our nationals who are in those states. And of course, Hawaii. I did mention Hawaii last week for the first time because someone told me to mention Hawaii as well, because they are always in tune to Von Radio and what is happening here on the island of Nevis. Of course, you go up to Canada and the whole of Canada, but more so our folks who are living in Toronto, Montreal, Ontario, and all of the other major cities there in Canada. We move further along to Europe, and for folks in England, Spain, Denmark, France, Germany, wherever our nationals are, I say good afternoon to you. And of course, we go into Asia, whether Japan, Hong Kong, most of all, though. I want to welcome the folks who are listening there in the Republic of China, Taiwan. It's just about 5 minutes past 1 on a Saturday morning, early Saturday morning there. And I'm sure some folks might still be up and listening. So I say good morning to you and thank you for always following what is going on here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We appreciate your listenership, of course. Let's move on. And of course, we normally would express sympathies to folks or families out there that are grieving at this time. I want to start by expressing my profound sympathies to the family of Miss Alexis Jeffers from up there in Fountain, family member of mine. She passed away 2 days ago, and it was indeed a shock to me, yes, and it just shows that we are here today and gone today, or this minute we're here and this minute we're gone as well. Iola would have had her challenges, of course, and indeed we are sorry that she's no longer with us, and so the family at this time, I'm sure, is having a difficult time coping with the loss of their mother, and she was the mother of the assistant permanent secretary down there in the Ministry of Health, Latoya Jeffers, and of course my good friend there as well, Dishi. We call him Dishi. He works over there at Four Seasons. That is her son, and of course Shaquania Jeffers, who would have captured the Miss Culture title last year in 2024. That's her granddaughter, and of course I also want to there's another daughter as well there at the Nisbet settlement area. My goodness, sometimes you're getting old and you lose names. And I know when she says me, she'll chastise me. Oh man, she teaches there at the VOJ in primary school. I feel bad. Should have written down that name, but anyway, it will come back to me before I exit this building, I'm sure. But the entire family, in terms of sisters and nieces and nephews and brothers and the whole family up there in Fountain and down in St. Kitts as well. There is a sister down there, Ina, who I know very well and would speak to from time to time. Of course, the Minister of Tourism on St. Kitts, Masha Henderson, is also a niece of hers. And indeed, families are all over the world. So I say all of you are expressing sympathies to everyone. And although it is a difficult time, I want you to continue to believe that God will see you through this one and will be your comforter and protector throughout the entire process. We'll listen up for the eventual funeral service when that will be held, so that the support will be there for the entire family when the time comes. Very difficult circumstances, I will say, and life is what it is, but I know that there is a God who will not give us more than we can bear in this lifetime. He'll always be there to provide the comfort needed to see us through all of these challenges and all of these difficult times. So that is my word to the family at this point in time, and the entire Fountain community as well. And I would go beyond and say St. James community, because Iola was well known by all those who would have passed through the VOJ primary school at some point, because she worked there for a while, and indeed she would have interacted with all of the young men and young women who would have gone through that school and provided them with some wholesome meal there, and of course provided some advice and imparted whatever knowledge she may have had to impart at some point, so that she can help to shape and mold those young minds that would have passed through that school. So may her soul rest in peace, and may the family continue to find comfort in the arms of God at this particular point in time. And any other family that are going through any difficult difficult period, I must say, at this time, I express sympathies to you. And of course, it may not always be the passing of someone, a family member, or whatever the case might be, but it can also be an illness in the family that is creating some anxiety or some challenges. And of course, whatever it is, we say the best thing to do is always take your burdens and problems to the Lord in prayer, and He will provide the answers. And if He doesn't provide the answer immediately, continue to believe and have faith. Faith, they say, move mountains. Yeah, so continue to believe. Okay, moving right along. I want to express birthday greetings to anyone who are celebrating at this time, whether it's a birthday or even some major form of celebration. I want to express best wishes to you, and of course, whatever you do so in moderation. Some people can go to the extreme. Of course, you can't tell them to not do it, because they'll do it anyway. But I say, whatever you do, just be careful about what you do. And indeed, I always say, if you have any finances available to you, or whatever finances you have, spend something on yourself. I just said people are here today and they're gone today. So you can plan for tomorrow and plan for next week and a year from now, but always try to live in the moment, in the sense that once you have a celebration, do so in such a way that you will say to yourself, this is the last, but we wish you many more. because that's how life is these days. But whatever you have, if you have $10, spend 5 on yourself. Once you have health and strength, you'll be able to replenish that at some point in time. But have fun and enjoy life. Yeah? So, all of you who are celebrating, from all of us here at Von Radio, I say happy birthday, best wishes, an anniversary, same thing, best wishes, whatever it is. Just go ahead and enjoy yourself. Yeah? Okay, let's move on from there. The weather. Well, I told myself this morning, whether it's pouring rain, whether it's windy, whatever the case might be, I am still coming to Von Radio to spend this hour with my people. So this morning we had the passage, or overnight we had the passage of, I think this is Jerry. That's the name of the tropical storm, Jerry. Well, Jerry was not as inconsiderate towards us. He left us some wind and some rain, and there is some instability outside still, because it's drizzling a bit outside and we have some rough seas and so forth. But we're thankful, and we want to thank God for his tender mercies towards us, because thus far, this is October, and we haven't had any major storm to contend with. Yes, there have been a couple of huge storms that would have gotten to category 4 and perhaps category 5 for a brief moment. I believe the last one that passed through here north of us, north and east of us, would have been Erin, I believe. That was a monster storm, and there was one prior as well. But all of these storms seem to have taken the same route off of the African coast, past north of us, and head northeast and back out east again. So the Bahamas, Bermuda, and those countries were not affected in any significant way, and we thank God for that, because once you get affected, or once you are affected by a storm, it is a major setback, because your infrastructure is perhaps destroyed or severely affected. So then you have to rebuild, then you have to repair and reestablish what would have been damaged, for example. So we are thankful when we don't have to do all these things, and the resources and the meager resources that you have as a country or an island that is meant for other things sometimes have to be utilized to recover from some of these damages or the effects of some of these storms. But in this case, so far so good. I will say to us, let us not let our guards down, because I believe in 2008 we were impacted sometime in October by Omar. That was a hurricane that passed through these parts, came out of the west, did some significant damage down there at Four Seasons. And so Four Seasons was out of commission for, I believe, 2 years, and other businesses as well on Penny's Beach. And that certainly would have been a major setback at that time. And so we cannot, drop our guards, and we have to continue to pray and hope that we continue throughout this season until the 30th of November without any major storms. Yes, we would welcome the rain and some wind, but more so the rain, because our farmers, I'm sure, are smiling at this time. Yes, they're smiling because they don't have to use the government water, perhaps since when? Earlier this week to today, and then beyond today, maybe for the next couple of days. And of course, the showers of blessings that we get is much more useful and much more advantageous to the plant. So farmers, I'm sure, are very happy at this point in time that their crops are receiving good water at this time. And so we continue to hope that this will continue, so that our farmers can save some money. Even though the government need the money, they can save some money on water. Yeah, so we continue to pray. Okay, let's move right along. In terms of notices or any promotion that we can offer at this point in time, I believe last week I spoke about the link promotion that they're having over there in Brick Hill at the old Whitehall basketball court. I believe I did so last week. Let me do so again. So the Link Promotions 5th Annual Pork and Beer Festival will be held on Saturday 29th November, starting at 12 noon or 12 p.m. until, and of course they said it's free admission But the entertainment once again will be our DC Band, Collision Band, DJ Dangles, Dynamic Sounds, Braveheart Sounds, Selector Bobby and Toby, DJ Wet Dot, Tough House Sounds, Rokodan, Speedy, Pakis, Empress, Ritik, and many more entertainment to be added. I'll try and get the guys on here at some point between now and then to do their own promotion so that you can hear the voices of those guys who are behind this particular promotion, Link Promotion. They have been doing this for the last 5 years. Well, this is their 5th staging or edition of this Pork and Beer Festival. So Alexis Jeffers and his team are the ones who are behind this promotion, and I want to applaud them for continuing with something that I feel has its place on the calendar of activities here on the island of Nevis. You know, throughout the year you have all of these different activities that are held annually. So this is one of those activities, and they have done so with this being the 5th staging of this particular event. So I wish them well, and I ask all of us to go out and support this particular event. Pork and Beer Festival, of course, there'll be other things that will be there. Family fun event would be available as well over there, along with other food items and drinks. So of course, whatever you do on that day, make sure to stop by the old Whitehall basketball court to support this particular event and the young guys who are behind this event. It's important to do so. Okay, moving right along. Don't have any other thing to advertise at this point in time, other than to acknowledge here and now the Republic of China, Taiwan. They would have celebrated their 114th National Day yesterday, the 9th of October. So on the 9th of October each year, they celebrate the National Day of the Republic of China, Taiwan. So yesterday was the 114th celebration. There was an event planned for St. Kitts last night. It was held, but we were unable to go because of the information that we would have gotten pertaining to the storm Jerry. They say in life it's better to be safe than to be sorry, and we were advised to not cross because of perhaps we could be caught on St. Kitts with high waves which were expected last evening, so it may have posed a challenge to us. So we were not able to attend, and I want to publicly apologize to the ambassador and his team there at the embassy in Basseterre. But of course, we want to acknowledge the Republic of China, Taiwan, still, because of course they continue to play a major role in our overall development here on the island of Nevis and on the island of St. Kitts, and of course the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. They have been our partner, and we have been their friend since 1983. They were the first to come on board as one of our diplomatic partners, or one of our partners in the diplomatic circle, and so they have played their part over these years. So as long as we've been independent, they have been our friend and our partner. Of course, they've partnered with us in terms of advancing education. Quite a number of our students are in the Republic of China, Taiwan studying, and many have gone, many have come back and have been playing their part and ensuring that we have gotten the level of development that we've had here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, they also provide assistance and training in healthcare. They have assisted and partnered with us in infrastructural development, indeed also in agriculture. And in recent times we would have had this particular small business loan arrangement that was entered into with the Republic of China, Taiwan, so that young persons here on the island of Nevis, and to be more specific, women of all ages and also male 35 and younger, have been able to capitalize on this particular loan, small business loan arrangement that has been put in place, and it is being facilitated down there at the at SIDU, That's a small enterprise development unit. I believe that revolving fund may still have monies available so that our young people can still make inquiries down there at SIDU. They are located up there on Chapel Street, in that same complex where the old credit union was, and the electoral office is in that particular complex as well. So they are on the top floor, so I would say go there and make inquiries. If you are a male 35 and younger, and female of all ages can go there, make your inquiries and see how you can capitalize on that. And in recent times, of course, we would have approached the Republic of China Taiwan for financing of the expansion of the Van Samri International Airport. So they are providing financing for the expansion of the passenger terminal, the construction of a brand new firefighting facility or fire hall, upgrades to the control tower, and indeed we will be constructing a new road. At least the road will be realigned, and they're providing the financing for all that. So, plus also a new cargo facility. So all those will be financed through a loan that we'll be getting from the Republic of China Taiwan. And I will say that we've made significant progress with that particular loan facility. I will get into that at a later date, but I will say that these things take some time. There are major steps to be taken, and we have taken all of the necessary steps up to this point in time. So we're moving towards what you call a drawdown shortly, so that we can get going with those particular projects. Components of the project that we intend to do. So those are components, and the overall project is the upgrade and expansion of the Van Samri International Airport. So we'll hear and speak more about that in subsequent programs, and also keep you abreast as to what is going on. Okay. Last week I had these numbers and these data information, but I'm providing them today instead, because we went through quite a lot of things last week. So the Wally Water Taxi Facility, you know, every month I come, I smile every time, because there are some persons who might be saying, oh, not again. You're talking about the same thing over and over again. Well, guess what? I'm going to come every month and provide this update, because there is something significant about it, or there are quite a number of things that are significant about these numbers. I have said before that the Wally Water Taxi Facility is a vision that we had from day one, that this facility can play a major role and a major part in the overall development of both St. Kitts and Nevis, to ensure that persons can move quickly and with ease. And so it has certainly lived up to the expectations that we've had from day one. And of course, a day like this, when Charlestown, there are no boats traversing the waters out of Charlestown, and I believe the car boat or the car ferry that goes from Charlestown and also Long Point, when I was coming into the building, I believe it's docked over there at Long Point Pier. So what that means is that these two particular facilities are not operating as normal today. But over at the Wally Water Taxi Facility, people are still able to move. And that is something that must be considered in all this as to why this particular project was established. So persons are moving. Of course, people have gone to St. Kitts already to catch a flight out of St. Kitts. The American Airlines or whatever else is flying out of St. Kitts today. Even though we have some bad weather in the area, planes are still flying. So persons have gone, and they're able to do so because the water taxi facility is up and running over there. There might be some curtailing of the movements, but there's still boats moving. Yeah, and so that in and of itself is one of those major reasons why we needed that facility, and why that facility continued to be an important part of our overall development. In terms of movement, though, for the month of September, we would have seen just about 19,903 passengers would have moved through that facility during the month of September. And that was a slight drop off from September of 2024. I'm yet to figure out what the reason may have been. But I know for sure over the months leading up to now, we've had incremental increases over each month, month over month. And so there was a slight decrease over 2024. There may have been something significant happening in September of 2024. But in September of 2024, there were 23,479 passenger movement through the Uwali water taxi facility. So a slight drop off. That being the case though, no problem. The facility continued to play its part. And indeed, when we add the 19,903 passengers, then of course we see that to date, adding that to the 1,308,611 passengers that have moved through that facility to date, we're now up, as of the end of September, we're now up to 1,328,514 passengers. So we continue to grow in leaps and bounds over there, and that is a wonderful thing. That's a good thing, and that is why I keep saying that it was a no-brainer, it was a vision, and it was monies well spent, because I can go further and say, and go out on a limb and say that that facility have repaid for itself. It has, because if 1.3 million persons have passed through that facility, then of course, and I say persons, but let me correct because we have to be particular, passengers. And let me clarify that and say one person can pass through there twice, meaning they're going to St. Kitts, they pay, they come back, pay to come back, yes, on the ferry. So they pass through there twice, but it is just one person, but they're passenger twice, yeah? So we count passengers and not persons, because passengers, you can actually tabulate, you can count the monies being spent by way of passengers. Persons can go through once, a passenger can go through multiple times, and so they have to pay every time, okay? So that's that for the Uwali water taxi facility. And so we've seen many opposition to this particular facility over the years, and even when we were thinking about constructing it, there was opposition, of course. And it just seems like everything that is done by this particular administration in government, there's always opposition coming from the opposition, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't want to call their name, but the opposition, everybody know who the opposition is. But there have been opposition, and this project is one such example. And I will say that if I were to just go back a couple of years when this project was thought about, persons came to my office. Some would have said that it would be constructed over their dead body. I don't know what that means. Some say we were building a facility to, bring criminals into Jones Estate and all sorts of things. Some say we were building something that will not be used. Some said it was unfinished. Some gave it all kind of criticisms out there. But through it all, I can say to the Nivision public and those who are listening, in this government or in this party in government, we hear a lot of things that are being said. But we have never stopped to say, well, let that dissuade us in any way from doing what the people of Nevis, the majority here on the island of Nevis, have mandated us to do. And so when all of the negative comments were coming, we gave the assurances along the way. When we asked for an EIA to be done, the same individual who I asked, the person leading the NRP now, said that she's busy. She has things to do. We had to go beyond the shores of Nevis to get an EIA so that we can get that project up and going. So the negatives have been there. The naysayers have been there, but we have always pressed on in terms of pursuing what we feel is important to the island of Nevis. And so there are many other projects that we have had all of these negatives. We have this project that is being talked about currently, which I'll get to, this special sustainability zone that is contemplated for the south side of Nevis. There are a lot of comments out there, and of course comments are welcome. And I said last week that we can always be respectful about our discourse. We're grown people, we are mature people, intelligent people. We can look at the pros and the cons, we can look at the good and the bad, we can look at all of the indifferences. But we have to be respectful. So we talk about, negatives that have been coming from those on the other side. Of course, that facility, like I said, is one such example where there were negatives and we decided to press on because we understood the value of that project to the island of Nevis. We can think about the transformation that it has brought about. I can go into it and rehash all that, and there's nothing wrong with doing it because, of course, we said this project is a revenue generating project, and it has generated revenue for everyone who are involved over there at Ouale. Not only there, but beyond our shores, because not everything that is needed by those boat operators are available here on the island of Nevis. They have to go elsewhere to purchase parts and engine and the likes. So at least we have been able to impact businesses here, businesses regionally, businesses internationally through that same facility. Of course, the extension of that same, last night I was thinking, we extended that tender pier down there in Charlestown. It was first constructed by the concerned citizens movement in government some years ago, but it was a wooden pier, partly wooden, partly concrete, I believe it was. But anyway, be that as it may, it was in a state of disrepair. And also, it was not of the required length because we were attracting larger cruise ships to Nevis. Larger cruise ships meaning initially it was those windjammers, and then we have gone on to ships that bring 1,500 passengers with some larger tender boats now. So we went ahead and extended, or we came up with the plan to extend that particular pier, the tender pier. We met some opposition, plenty of opposition, but we proceeded. And of course, since we have done so, you go down there and have a look at that tender pier, and then you look at the larger tender boats that come in during our cruise season, and you understand the wisdom of doing so, not abiding by what has been said or the negatives that you'll hear, but doing what is necessary to ensure that we're moving this country or this island forward. And so we have gone about that, and you see, it is playing the role that it should play. We have heard a lot of opposition to the expansion of the Van Samre International Airport. There have been protests as well up there at the Van Samre International Airport. There have been negative things being said and spewed on the airwaves and on Facebook and different social media platforms. But to date, we have made progress to the point where we'll be announcing shortly a groundbreaking ceremony at least. There are a couple of, as they say, quote-unquote, loose ends to tie up in terms of finalizing one or two pieces of lands over there. Not that there are any negotiations ongoing. We have done the negotiations, but it's a matter of getting the legal work completed so that we can pay those landowners. And so we are making headway with that particular project, even though there have been a lot of opposition from the other side. But that is who we are. We have always prided ourselves in looking after what is best for the island of Nevis and seeking to push the island of Nevis forward. I will go further and say that even this Mundo track over there was some significant opposition to it. They said flies are going to come out the dump and get into people's food and all kind of things. No such thing has happened. As a matter of fact, when you look at the impact that Mundo track has had, I asked the question the other day, well, about how many athletes or student athletes we've had out of Nevis going to schools in the United States thus far since 2018. Because recall that in 2018 we had the opening ceremony during that inter-primary school event that was held then. That was the first event that was held over there, and that was in 2018. And I was told just about 10 or more students have already gone to school in the United States. And some of the names, if I were to call quickly: Shamari Keynes, or Shamar Keynes, Shamari Newton, Kalia Jones, Anira Wilkes, or Anira, not Anira, Anira, I know Anira, Latasia Bailey, Timothy Keynes, Alexander Keynes, Tiana Libert, Leroy Chapman, and I think there is someone from Cotton Ground who I don't remember the last name. Jonici, I think her name is, if I'm not mistaken. But the bottom line is we've had quite a number of students who have left for the United States. And you know what? I believe they have said when they got there, when they look at the tracks them in the United States, they say, oh, we have one like that in Nevis, or one even better than what they're running on in the United States. It could very well be the case. But all I know, they have transitioned from grass to a surface made by Mundo, which is an international surface, and I believe that surface was used in the Olympics of 2016, I believe. Down there in Brazil, that's where the Olympics was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But in spite of the naysayers and in spite of the doubting Thomases, we were able to build that track, and of course it's there. The MGR Park, that is the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, plenty of negatives. Even they oppose this new policy that we introduced for our non-established workers, where we ensure that they have a pension at the end of their period of time of working with the government, so that they can live a dignified life thereafter, compared to what they were hitherto accustomed to, going home with a lump sum and that's the end of it. But that was shredded to pieces, and it was seen as the most negative thing by the opposition. But you can't tell the persons who are benefiting that there's anything bad about that. They now know, and they now have that comfort in mind that there is something for them, something that is much better than they would have gotten before. And that is why I said before, as a government, we have to do what we have to do to ensure that we're delivering to our people. People matter more. People matter most to us. Some may say performance matter. Well, we perform for the people so that what we do matter to them. People matter most, and that is why even when it comes to the fair share argument that we were pushing, fair share of the CBI receipts, you know, not talking about the revenue out of St. Kitts. We're talking about the fair share out of the passport money. We were hoping the opposition would have joined us in that argument, so we have a collective voice. If we have a collective voice, you know, sometimes I look at my hand, right? Each one of these fingers can operate separately and apart from each other. But from the time I backs up my face, that is more powerful than any one of these fingers. Yeah? I can do so much more with this. All of my fingers curled together in a fist, I can get more done with this than this one finger, this one finger, that kind of thing. So the point is, on matters pertaining to the island of Nevis and the best interests of the people of Nevis, I believe all of us should join together as one and say we have a united voice on matters that are important to the island of Nevis. One such matter is, and was, however term you want to use or whatever term we can use, was the fair share argument. Mandy and Happy went and they tear it down. They say, oh man, all manner of evil was said. And we stuck to our guns because we feel that if it is a passport that bears the name or carries on the front of it St. Christopher and Nevis, it therefore means it belongs to the people of St. Christopher and Nevis, not one entity. I've said before, when good come, stays in Bastille when it comes to the sale of those passports. When bad came, all of us were caught in one net, and all of us had to suffer. And I don't want to go down the road of articulating all of the challenges and difficulties we've had. But the whole idea of us uniting on certain issues that are important to the people of Nevis is one that we must always consider and always be prepared to fight that fight together. COVID-19 came The opposition was asked to join forces with the government. They refuse. There's a letter that is out there as evidence where they refuse to join forces with the government. And I will say the people of Nevis, because this was a situation where there were a lot of unknowns. Here you heard about COVID-19, didn't know what was going to happen, but the assistance and the call was made for us to work together on this, but they refuse. I'm just going through some things where the opposition has always fought against the people of Nevis, you know. And that's how I'm going to put it. Fighting against the people of Nevis. When they're asked to join, they refuse. Instead, they take this pathway, which is really a part of their culture. It is their culture to spread lies, misinformation, disinformation, misrepresenting the facts, and of course, all wrapped up in hypocrisy when it's all said and done. That is their culture, and that is how they've operated over the years. And I have done some reading, and I have come to the conclusion that any organization with a culture of lies and deception will always seek to promote a toxic environment. They'll always seek to promote a toxic environment, because that is how they will get their point across. That is how they'll continue to spread their lies. That is how they continue to spread misinformation and disinformation. That toxic environment that we see being created by those in the opposition. I believe that's all they know. Because in everything that you ask them for a solution, they have been giving you either, as they say locally, cold shoulder. You know, we ain't in that. Or they come with misinformation, like I said, or disinformation. But we continue to press on as a party in government, because Nevis has come a long way in the right direction. Some parties have come a long way in the wrong direction. Well, this party in government has come a long way. And the island of Nevis has come a long way in the right direction as well. I want to just dig up some history for a little bit, because one would recall back in the 1960s, 1970s, many out there, along with myself, I was born in the 60s, but I can recall some of those tough periods that we would have gone through back in the 70s, 80s, before independence. We have had a tough time. As a matter of fact, I'll say to anyone out there that even the island of Nevis, for some, was seen as perhaps just an agriculture belt. Those in St. Kitts looked at Nevis. Well, Nevis can produce all of the food over there. Cotton. Cotton is not food, but cotton, sugar, and food, ground provision, and the likes. Yeah? That is what Nevis was supposed to be, in the minds of some. Produce the food in Nevis and you'll be the bread basket for St. Kitts. I could recall as well, as a young man, the prison farm up there in Russell's Rest, the top of Madden's. They were the ones who were producing food for the prison in St. Kitts. They were the ones who were providing meat products to the prison in St. Kitts. So every week you saw these containers going over to St. Kitts, and then even from the Charlestown area and around Nevis you'd see our hucksters, those we call in Tunhan, taking the basket down to St. Kitts to sell their ground provision and their, you know, guinea and sugar apple, mangoes, that kind of thing. We were providing all those, and Nevis was seen as that. Mark you, I have no difficulty with agriculture, because when it comes to agriculture, it must be a part of our economy. It must be a part of our thinking, because we must be thinking food security. We must be able to feed ourselves in some regards. But Nevis couldn't have stayed an agriculture belt, as some would have wanted to be, because while we're over here planting cotton and sugar cane, and so all of the manufacturing was being done in St. Kitts. Those of us who can recall our history, sugar was being manufactured down there. Now they have the breweries making beverages. They have the CA Paul Southwell industrial complex over there, Electrofab and all kind of different names, making items to send off to the United States. Manufacturing was done over there. But we couldn't continue down that road here in Nevis. That's why I have to commend all of the previous leaders and those who are there now as to their efforts to change the trends here on the island of Nevis. So, post-independence, we have seen the establishment of certain institutions. Bank of Nevis, the financial services sector was established. You know, banking laws have been passed to encourage international banks. Construction of villas and real estate took off in Nevis. Four Seasons has been in the mix for some years now, which have created that level of economic activity. And that is why I went down to this thing there on Tuesday, I believe it was, a consultation with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And there were some comments made, yes, I listened. And of course, it didn't escape me that the thinking is still there that Nevis must remain quiet. Nevis must remain this docile place where, you know, you shouldn't be thinking big. You shouldn't be thinking beyond, out of the box. And so the comments were made that some say, that's what they comment, that we are changing the face of Nevis. We must not have an international airport. We must not have these infrastructure that will help to grow the island of Nevis, because St. Kitts have them. And this is not a St. Kitts and Nevis thing. History has already been written, and we have gone through the history of this federation, or the history of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have gone through that. We have lived it. We have experienced it. So it's nothing new. But I am so happy that we are a different set of persons here on the island of Nevis that think big, that think beyond where we are now. And that is why you have over here at Long Point, there's some manufacturing taking place over there. Windows, galvanized, doors. There's, what is happening over there? All kind of manufacturing going on over there. Because we have been thinking as a people, how do we get beyond where we are? And that is why I have to commend all of the leaders and those who are along with those leaders over the years by thinking big to move this island forward. And so we have seen the transformation of Nevis over the years. We have seen improvement in water. We've seen improvement in electricity. We've seen improvement in our healthcare, improvement in education. We have ensured that our seniors are well looked after. Those seniors who would have paved the way for us. They have seen things, they've been through things that many of us will never see in our lifetime. And that is why we continue to look out for them. Once you have realized some level of success, it must be passed on to everybody. So the young, the old, and the not so old are experiencing some level of success here on the island of Nevis. And this government is ensuring that especially our elderly is being looked after. So we have seen improvement in infrastructure all around, simply because we have sought to make sure that those days when it was thought that we should remain in agriculture and be the breadbasket for whomever, we have said that we are bigger than that, we are better than that. This small 36 square miles, we haven't even seen our true potential up to this point in time. There's much more to come. And as a matter of fact, I made a visit up there. I paid a visit to the Nelson Museum, and I have my doubts as to whether Nevis is really 36 square miles, and I believe we're more than that. We should be about 54 based on what I read there, right? So what I'm saying to Premier Bradley, listen, let's find some money and get the technical people in here. If we don't have them here, let's get them here to measure Nevis again. Because I believe we are more than 36 square miles based on what I've read. And so whatever the reason was to make Nevis 30, somebody says it's 36 square miles, I don't know. I believe it's bigger than that. So we'll need to get some work done on that. That's a project or an undertaking that I believe we should undertake. So we have had improvement all up and down Nevis, man. You know? And right now we're pursuing things like geothermal. Oh, as I touch that, I've heard and I've seen some writings out of St. Kitts saying that we should pursue geothermal and not this special sustainable sustainability zone. Yeah? Pursue geothermal. Well, we have been pursuing it for years. And while we have been pursuing it, everybody in St. Kitts know that we have been pursuing geothermal. I want to thank Prime Minister Drew and his team for lending support to our pursuits to bring about the fruition of geothermal. And why I say that is because if we can recall back when there was a Labour NRP coalition, former Premier Parry would have said, and I can recall it being said, that they went to the federal government for a guarantee for, I think, $75 million, and it wasn't forthcoming. They didn't get it. Because based on what was said, then it appears that something was needed from the federal government, which the Nevis Island administration under the NRP was not willing to give. And since we've had team unity, the minister responsible for communication over there would have said that their interest is to pursue geothermal in St. Kitts. We all know geothermal does not exist in St. Kitts. We all know based on the studies that the field that is required, or whatever the terminology is, does not exist in St. Kitts. Nevis have proven to have that resource. But the minister then, minister responsible for communication and works, all talk that they have on radio, I don't study them anyway, because with all the talk they have, all of them have sought to stymie the development of this particular resource. So that is why I say thank Prime Minister Drew for having the wisdom and understanding that this particular resource, if it can be developed, yes, it can be a game changer. But while it is being worked on, there are other things that we must continue to pursue as an island and as a country. And so that is why this special sustainability zone authorization act was passed, so that we can look towards another form, revenue source for the island of Nevis, the island of St. Kitts, for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Various components about it have been spoken about. There's been a lot of negatives out there, and that's why I say you can present your opinion. Plenty of opinions can be presented. But what I'm pleased about is that the Nevis Island administration have now taken it to the next level, where they're engaging the general public. Indeed, the engagement will be one where ideas would be proffered, and of course we can make changes as we go. But keep in mind, the act has been passed. That is the framework for this particular development. Not just this development on the south side, but any such development in the Federation. Just as you had the act or the law that was passed to establish the Citizenship by Investment program back in 1984, out of that act would have been different legislation that will pass. As a matter of fact, we've seen different components or different types of investment that were entered into, born out of the Citizenship by Investment legislation. So, as was said, that is the framework that is being used to establish any zone, and then there will be additional discussion, additional legislation. Once that particular agreement is entered into, it must go into the Nevis Islanders Assembly for debate. Then it moves to the federal parliament for debate, and then it is passed. It is, well, not before it is passed, there will be a debate. There will be, of course, perhaps amendments made to whatever agreement is put forward. Then out of that, changes are made to that particular agreement, and then it is passed and gazetted. So there are a number of steps. The point I'm making is that there are a number of steps before we get to an actual signed and passed agreement, because it has to go before both parliaments. And as was mentioned before, and I think I heard it from the Premier, that this perhaps is one of the first agreement or first bit of legislation that is as open as it is and as transparent transparent as it is, so that at least the entire Division, the entire Kittitian, the entire country can have their input. And listen, with a population of just about 50,000, we can have 50,000 opinions. There will be no end of opinions available on this particular matter. But what we have to do in the end is to understand that if it is that these developers who are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis have a desire to establish a special sustainability zone, and the necessary steps are taken, the right steps are taken, then we would have to go ahead with the development to ensure that we can realize the benefits that can certainly derive from such a development. Jobs, long-term jobs. Well, let's put it this way: immediate, short-term, long-term jobs in hospitality, construction, services, technology, you name it. These will be jobs available for all young people, and I understand there will be scholarships available. Monies will be provided for scholarships, so persons or young men and young women can go abroad to study. You go and study, equip yourself with the necessary training, and you come right back to work in that particular zone, to work for the Nevis Island administration, so that we can help work collectively to build this island. As I said before, this island is nowhere close to realizing its true potential. And of course, we are hearing about lands being sold, and persons are saying they're from Montserrat, saying don't sell your land. They're from Timbuktu, they say don't sell your land. I don't know how people get such powers to tell someone who owns their land and who have plans for their money that they would realize from such sale not to do it. I've said before, if someone have 5 acres of land over there, 2 acres of lands, it's sitting there and they are struggling in their life. They haven't had a home of their own ever in their life, and they now see an opportunity to realize some finances to go and build a home for them and their family so that they can live a good life. Who am I? Who are you? Who is anybody to tell them that they cannot sell their land to transform their lives? As I said before, people are divesting themselves of lands over there, yes, but are reinvesting in lands all up and down Nevis. And that is a good thing to do. That is a smart thing to do. So we have that development coming. We have other parts of the island that are developing as well. And if you have development all around Nevis, that is a major plus for all of us. All of us who are now the protectors of this land, and all who would come thereafter. All we are asking our people to do is to look for the positives out of this particular development. The negatives are there, yes, but look at the positive. There are a number of positives. Certainly outweighs the negatives, because you have heard them all throughout. You have heard all of the negatives, and there's no need to rehash these negatives, because as far as I'm concerned, we've gone beyond the negatives. What I'm looking at now are what can we do as a people to capitalize on this particular investment. And so 1 hour goes by fast. I'm already hearing my music here, and that is the cue that it's time to pack my bag and make some tracks out of here. But let me say, we are on the right path as a country, as an island, first of all, and of course as a country we just have to continue to galvanize our efforts, utilize the resources that are available to us, make sure that we are doing the right things to bring that balance in the lives of our people, whereby they can have work and live a good life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 2 o'clock, and sometimes we get going, like I said, and we never cover the grounds that we want to cover in the hour. But anyway, time well spent, and I certainly appreciate being here this afternoon. As I always close, I say, those of you who go to church on a Saturday, go and serve your God. If you go on a Sunday, do likewise. Say a prayer for this station. Say a prayer for me as well. Say a prayer for the island of Nevis, St. Kitts, Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Pray for God's blessings on us as a people, so that we can have wisdom to make the right decisions that will positively impact the island of Nevis and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. Enjoy the weather. And whatever you can do when you get home this afternoon, plant something so that the rain would help it grow. And then you'll have something to eat in the end. This is good weather to plant, yeah? So go ahead and plant. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. And see you next time around. God bless.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.